So today we are going to start a series of webinars. So first webinar is organized by Department of Swasthavatta Dhanvantari Ayurveda Medical College and Charitable Hospital, Udgir. Today's topic is National Webinar on Ayurveda and Yoga for Immunity. We have got today esteemed speakers as well as inaugural guests. Speakers are Dr. Amol Koshti from Swaminarayan Ayurveda College, Kalol, Gujarat. Dr. Dipti Nair from Murlidhar Ayurveda College, Rajkot. Our inaugural guests are Dr. Ashutosh Gupta, President, MCIM, Maharashtra, and Dr. Shrikant Deshmukh, Dean, Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, Nashik. So first of all, I will request Dr. Ashutosh Gupta to give his inaugural speech.
आवाज येतोय सर?
येस सर, आवाज येतो.
हिंदीत बोलू मराठीत?
कुठल्याही भाषेत चालेल, हिंदीमध्ये चालेल.
या वेबिनारचं आयोजन ज्या महाविद्यालयाने केलं ते महाविद्यालयाचे प्राचार्य डॉक्टर दत्ता पाटील सर, माझे परिषदेतले सहकारी, महाराष्ट्र आरोग्य विज्ञान विद्यापीठाचे आयुर्वेद फैकल्टी के डीन डॉक्टर श्रीकांत देशमुख सर, सभी आयोजक और इस वेबिनार में सम्मिलित हुए सभी डॉक्टर्स और गणमान्य व्यक्ति। बीते 1-1.25 सालों से पूरे दुनिया का परिप्रेक्ष्य बदल गया है और बीते 1-1.5 साल का अगर हम विचार करेंगे तो आयुर्वेद के बारे में लोगों का आकर्षण भी बहुत बड़े पैमाने पर बढ़ा है। आयुर्वेद को इम्यूनिटी बढ़ाने के लिए, रोग प्रतिकारक क्षमता बढ़ाने के लिए आयुर्वेद की दिनचर्या, ऋतुचर्या, आहार विहार, औषधि, इन सभी का उपयोग करने के बारे में लोगों में जन जागृति आई है। लेकिन आयुर्वेद में कहा है कि एकम शास्त्रम न अधियानो, तो एकम शास्त्रम न अधियानो कहा है तो आयुर्वेद के साथ योगा होगा, बाकी सब चीजें होगी जो इंडिजिनस चीजें हैं, जो हमारे जीवन में परिवर्तन करके हमारे स्वास्थ्य में पॉजिटिव चेंजेस ला सकती है। इन सभी के बारे में भी बहुत गंभीरता पूर्वक हमें सोचना बहुत जरूरी है। और मुझे ऐसा लगता है योगा के माध्यम से इम्यूनिटी बूस्टिंग के लिए आयुर्वेद के लोगों ने बहुत कोशिश करना आवश्यक है, क्योंकि इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच ऑफ इंडियन सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिसिन, इसके माध्यम से ही आम आदमी तक हम इम्यूनिटी बढ़ाने की दृष्टि से जागरूकता निर्माण करने में मुझे लगता है सफल होंगे। और इस माध्यम से जब हम प्रमोशन ऑफ पॉजिटिव हेल्थ के लिए आयुर्वेद और योगा की तरफ लोगों को बढ़ाएंगे और लोग इसमें बढ़ेंगे, उसी के बाद ही आयुर्वेद का सही मायने में विकास ये यहाँ पर हो सकता है। और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो पहल धन्वंतरी आयुर्वेद महाविद्यालय ने की है, ये एक बहुत अच्छी पहल है। इस पहल को मैं बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ और इस वेबिनार की सुफल सहित सफलता की कामना करते हुए अपने शब्दों को विराम देता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thanks a lot, sir. Now I will request Dr. Shrikant Deshmukh sir for giving the inaugural speech.
Good morning, all of you. Am I audible?
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much. Thank you very much for calling me for this webinar. This is the national webinar on Ayurveda and Yoga for Immunity. This is being organized by the Dhanvantari Ayurveda College and Hospital, Udgir, District Latur. This type of webinar specially related to yoga science and Ayurveda and related to immunity in this situation in pandemic and the corona situation, it is very important. Importance of immunity related to corona disease and COVID-19 is being developed in through Ayurveda and through yoga science. So to have the immunity developed along with the vaccination, along with the Ayurvedic drugs and Rasana therapy, and also yogic science. So this type of awareness program and this type of webinar to sensitize the people, to sensitize the Ayurvedic doctors, and to sensitize all related to COVID patients to develop the immunity. It is very important, and the situation and time selected by this college. I would like to congratulate Dr. Datta Patil sir, who is the dean of this institution, and also he is the member of Central Council of Indian Medicine, and also ex-vice president and member of the MCIM Maharashtra State. He has taken efforts. He has developed the relations with the government people, and he has developed the center like CCC and this non-COVID OPD and hospital. So these are the efforts made by the institution in remote areas like Udgir city. So these type of efforts can motivate the people and motivate the staff of the institution. So I would like to congratulate Dr. Datta Patil sir and my colleague Dr. Ashutosh Gupta ji, who is the president of the MCM, who has spoken just now. And I would like to congratulate all the members, speakers, and the participants for being attending this type of webinar. And I would like to yeah, extend my best wishes to this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Dattatreya Patil, sir, Principal, Dhanvantari Ayurveda Medical College, for giving the presidential speech. Sir. इकडे बघा.
Honorable Dr. Shrikantji Deshmukh, Dean, Faculty of Ayurveda, Maharashtra Institute of Health Sciences, Honorable Dr. Ashutosh Gupta, President, Maharashtra Council of Indian Medicine, Honorable Dr. Amolji Koshti, our guest speaker, Honorable Dr. Dipti Nayarji, our guest speaker, our staff at Dhanvantari Ayurveda College, and all the delegates. This is the particular time which we all are thinking for, because the way the pandemic situation due to COVID-19 have created awareness amongst we all regarding just to boost up our energy. We all know every system of medicine, it itself have its merits and demerits. Not a single pathy can achieve the goal of healthy society, healthy nation, healthy world. So just to get the best things from all pathies, we have planned this seminar through our Department of Swasthavarta. Instead of going into the details, I welcome you all on behalf of our institution, our President, Honorable Balasahebji Jadhav, ex-minister, our Vice Secretary, Honorable Babasahebji Patil, MLA, and our whole trustees. I welcome you all. I hope this webinar will definitely enrich your knowledge regarding Ayurveda and yoga related with this particular topic of immunity through these two systems of medicine. Thank you one and all. I request our speakers to continue with their knowledgeful speech. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Ashutosh Gupta and Dr. Shrikantji Deshmukh, as well as our principal, Dr. Dattatreya Patil, for their graceful presence in the inaugural function. Now, within a few minutes, we will start with the keynote speech. Please hold on.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just a minute. I will start the presentation. Then you can proceed.
Okay.
Sir, you can proceed now.
Just a minute. Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Dhanvantari Ayurveda College for to present of you. Today, because of this corona pandemic. So everybody wants to know whether such kind of things have been already explained in our Ayurveda community. I try to focus on this topic. So today we will discuss about this topic only. So can you please proceed to the next slide? Dr. Avinash, next slide, please.
A minute, sir.
Okay. As we all, the motto of our Ayurveda is Swasthasya Swastharakshanam Vikarasya Atura Prashamanam Cha, which means the Ayurveda has already given too much importance for preservation of the health of the healthy person. So whatever things are needed to be considered for preserving the health of the healthy person, that has been explained in our Ayurveda in very detailed manner. So even though it is not just the one concept, there are very too many concepts in Ayurveda which we can correlate with the modern concept of immunity. Next slide, please. See, if we see the concept of immunity in a broader sense, there are two types of immunities. One is a disease-specific immunity, whereas other is a general immunity. So in Ayurveda, this general immunity uh, has been given much importance, but in modern science they are giving much importance to the disease specific immunity. This disease specific immunity is just giving protection against any particular disease. The vaccine which we have taken, that vaccine will provide you the immunity against that particular disease only, but that concept is not seen in our Ayurveda. We are considering on the overall immunity of a person, so that the person becomes immune to each and every kind of infections. So we are focusing on empowering that person or empowering his immunity in such a way that no kind of infection can enter into the human host. See, if any kind of infection is entering in our body, unless and until it defeat our immunity, it cannot cause any kind of disease. Once it defeat our immunity, then and then only the disease can be precipitated into the human body. So Ayurveda is focusing on this kind of immunity only. So we are strengthening the immunity, general immunity, so that no organism, no pathogens or no bacteria, virus can break this kind of immunity and enter into the body. Okay, next slide, please. So in Ayurveda, Charaka has already explained this concept in a very precise manner is Vedic Shamatvam Vyadhi Balavirodhitvam Vyadhi Utpada Pratibandhakatvam Iti, which means it has clearly mentioned that the Vedic Shamatva is Vyadhi Balavirodhitvam, which means the strength of the Vyadhi should be opposed by our body so that the disease will not be manifested in its full form. So you have seen these corona patients, lot of patients are having very mild or minor symptoms. That's because person is having good kind of immunity, so that the disease, even though the pathogen has entered into the body, it will not be able to precipitate the disease in its full form. So another concept is that means uh, uh, resistance to the manifestation of disease itself. So the immunity is acting in such a way that it will not allow that pathogen to produce any kind of symptom. So that two forms are there in which the Vedic Shamatva is explained by Charak Samhita. Next slide, please. So as we all know that Nachya Sarva Sharirani Vedic Shamatva Samarthani, that Charaka has already explained that they know that every person will not be having that good kind of immunity. There are certain limitations where this Vedic Shamatva will not be in its complete form. So there are certain conditions in which this Vedic or immunity will not be much strengthened. The examples of that is na sharirani cha ati stulani, means the obese persons, ati krushani, matlab those who are having emaciation, then anirdishta mansa shonita sthani, shonita sthini, then durbalani, those who are having durbalya, then asatmya ahara, those who are having satmya ahara, though they are having good immunity. Those who are having asatmya ahara, they will be having less immunity. Then chintani, means those who are having stress, they will be having a less immunity. Then alpahara, alpasatvani, those who are having less ahara. Alpahara means not uh, that means they are not getting enough quantity of ahara, that is alpa ahara. Then alpa satvani, those who are having less mental power. So if the mental power or the willpower of the person is less, then they are getting diseased very frequently. So because this sattva or mana is very important in our manifestation of diseases. That's why even in our definition of swastha also prasanna atma indriya mana is mentioned, because if the sattva is prasanna or sattva is in its equilibrium, then manifestation of disease will not take place into that body. That's why all these particular conditions which are mentioned, if it is there, then that body will not be Vedic, or the immunity will be less in such kind of conditions, and opposite of that, they are having good immunity. Next slide, please.
Hello, Dr. Abul.
So when immunity is, yes, am I audible?
Yes, yes. In between, your network dropped.
I think if I
You can turn off your video.
off my camera, yes, video mode should be. Can I make it audible only? Audio mode only?
Yes, 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 yes.
So now the clarity will be more, I think. See,
Yes, yes.
whenever we are considering the immunity in our Ayurveda, there are various aspects which we must understand properly. Because as we all know, Agni is the thing or is the concept in Ayurveda which is very much important for any manifestation of any diseases. Roga sarve api mande agno. As we all know, if Agni is manda, then and then only the disease can precipitate into the human body. That's why if the Agni is in its normal form, in its samyak avastha, then there will not be any disease manifestation. That's why the concept of Agni is very much important. So whenever we are talking about immunity in Ayurveda, we must consider Agni as a main concept. Okay, the another concept of that is Bala. Bala means it can be of three types. Trivida Balamiti, Sahaja, Kalaja, and Yuktikrut. Sahaj Bal means it is the innate form of immunity. That means which we get from our parents. Then another kind of immunity, that is another kind of Bala, or we can correlate it with immunity, that is Kalaj. Kalaj means, see, in Adana Kala, we are having that body or the bala will be less, and in Visarga Kala, the bala of the body will be more, and that increased bala itself gives immunity to us. That's why we know that in Adana Kala certain diseases may be more prone, whereas in Visarga Kala, as our body immunity is more, the certain diseases will not be manifested in our body. The another kind of bala, that is Yukti Kruta bala. That Yukti Kruta bala means that which we can by Yukti or by artificially we can generate that bala in our body. That can be done by either by Vyayama or yoga, or even we can correlate it with the vaccination. See, this Yukti Kruta bala means it is the artificial immunization. So whatever artificial passive immunity or active immunity artificially, if it is induced into the body, that can be correlated with this Yukti Kruta bala. If the person's bala is good, then even those they are having some viruddhara or certain kind of things which may precipitate the disease into the body, that also can be dealt with by the body if the bala is good. Okay, the next is sattva. Sattva means manas. Mana means our mind. This sattva is also very much important in manifestation of diseases. As we all know, in Agre Sangraha, it is mentioned that Vishado Rogo Vardhananam Agreha. That means if the person is having Vishada, sorry, here that Shah is Shah for Shahamru. We all know this is spelling mistake. This Vishado is actually overthinking of something. मतलब किसी चीज के बारे में अगर हम बहुत ज्यादा सोचते हैं या उसके बारे में बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रेस लेते हैं, then that Vishada itself is causing Rogavardhana. So we know that the person, if who they are having less willpower or their mental status is not much strong, in such persons that diseases will be manifested in its full-fledged manner, or lot of symptoms or signs will be present into such person. For example, the persons who are having good willpower, they will recover from the disease very early, or even the disease signs symptoms will not be more aggravated in those persons, those who are आपने कोरोना में आपने देखा जिनका विल पावर कम था, they hello, am I audible?
Can you repeat from the Vishad concept?
Vishada, okay. This concept of Vishada here, that actually it is a spelling mistake. The sh should Vishad. That Vishada Rogavardhananam Agreha. It is told in Agre Sangraha of Ashtang Sangraha as well as in Charaka. So Vishada Rogavardhananam is correlated with those person who are having less willpower. जिनका mental status जो है वो उनका जो विल पावर जो है वो जो कम होता है, उन लोगों में डिसीजेस जो है वो ज्यादा होते हैं मतलब जो डिसीज के साइन सिम्टम्स है वो ज्यादा एग्रीवेट होने के चांसेस होते हैं. आपने देखा होगा कि ये कोरोना काल में भी जो लोगों का विल पावर कम था, उन लोगों में डिसीज जो मैनिफेस्टेशन है वो बहुत ज्यादा साइन सिम्टम्स के साथ हुआ, और जिनका विल पावर ज्यादा है उनमें जो डिसीज मैनिफेस्टेशन है वो बहुत कम माइल्ड फॉर्म में हुआ, और उनका रिकवरी भी बहुत फास्ट हुआ. सेम इज ट्रू इन केस ऑफ कैंसर पेशेंट्स ऑल्सो. कैंसर पेशेंट जिन लोगों का विल पावर अच्छा होता है उनका रिकवरी बहुत अच्छा और जल्दी होता है, बट इन केस अगर उनका विल पावर ठीक नहीं है तो वो डिसीज का जो एग्रीवेशन है वो बहुत ज्यादा होता है और जल्दी से उनका डेथ होने के भी चांसेस होते हैं. सो सत्व इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट phenomenon इन द immunity. Okay, next slide please. Next factor which is very much important in immunity, that is Prakruti. So from Prakruti or from innate immunity we can say it as, because it is it is the immunity which we get from our heredity or genetic factors. We know that there are certain genetic factors which are responsible for our immunity, or in certain communities certain kind of diseases are prone, and in certain communities these diseases will not be much in aggravated form. To understand this concept itself, we can see that in our Indian community we have seen this coronavirus in a very fewer means that aggravation of the disease sign symptoms is not much in our India as compared to other states. In other states it was very, that disease transmission was very fast, the signs and symptoms of the disease were also very aggravated, but that was not true in case of our India. We naturally, it may be naturally we have certain kind of immunity against this kind of diseases, or it may be because of our lifestyle which we are following in our India, that it makes our body in a stronger manner, so that the disease, any kind of infection which enters in our body can be dealt with by that immunity, and the disease will not manifest in its full form. The next kind of concept which can be correlated with immunity in Ayurveda is Oja. As we all know, Ojostu Tejo Dhatunam. The nectar or the core of this all dhatus is called as Ojas. सभी धातुओं का जो सार होता है उसे हम ओज कहते हैं. ओज तभी फॉर्म हो सकता है जब सभी प्रकार के धातु यूनिफॉर्मली और अच्छी तरीके से फॉर्म हुए हैं. मतलब धातुअग्नि अगर सही से काम कर रहा है और धातु का एक धातु का दूसरे धातु में परिणमन अगर सही ढंग से हो रहा है, तभी ओज जो है वो अच्छी तरीके से फॉर्म हो सकता है. तो जनरली द ओजा इज ऑलवेज synonymously used for immunity in our Ayurveda, but it is not so. What I feel is the most important phenomenon which is responsible for disease manifestation is Agni in our Ayurveda. See, the Oja will be formed in its balanced manner only the Dhatwagni is proper. If Dhatwagni and Jataragni is not in its good form, then Oja formation also will be hampered, and ultimately the immunity will be less. So whenever we consider immunity, we must consider Agni in our Ayurveda. It is very much important. Two factors are very much important as far as Ayurveda is considered. One is Agni and another is Sattva. That means condition of our mana. These two things are very much important for manifestation of any disease in our immunity. So whenever we consider about immunity, we have to think about the equilibrium of both of these things, Sattva as well as Agni. If these both things are in an equilibrium manner, the manifestation of disease will not take place in our body. Another concept which can be again correlated with immunity, that is Nidra. Because if proper Nidra or Samyak Nidra is there, then lot of diseases will not be manifested in our body. Because if Nidra is not proper, that itself can cause very much lot of diseases can be invited by asamyak Nidra. Nidra etam sukham dukkam pushti karsham balabalam rushita klipita dhanam badhnanam jivitam nacha. That is what is told about Nidra in our Charak Samhita. So as we can see that Sukha, Dukkha, Pushti, Karsha, Bala, Abala, everything is invariably related to Nidra. That's why Nidra also should be considered when we consider about immunity. अगर किसी person में निद्रा सम्यक नहीं है तो that itself lead to lesser immunity. Okay, next slide please. Now, as we know that our Ayurveda always emphasizes on boosting general immunity, because in our Ayurveda there is no concept like disease specific immunity. We uh, don't give any medicine which will prevent any particular kind of disease, or any it will give immunity against any particular kind of disease. That can be done only through vaccinations. Vaccine can provide you a disease specific immunity. But in Ayurveda, we are always focusing on general immunity. We want to build that person's immunity in such a way that he will be able to fight any kind of infection, whether it is a virus or it is a bacteria or any kind of pathogen. It will be able to deal with if that general immunity is strong. As I have already mentioned that any kind of pathogen will not be able to manifest the disease in our body unless and until it break down our immunity, that general immunity. That immunity, if it is broken, then only it will be able to manifest the disease in our body. So we in Ayurveda we focus on generalized immunity, and that can be again uh, achieved by improving our Agni as well as Sattva Bala. If both these two factors are considered, we can build a very good immunity of the person. Next slide, please. The question is, how can we boost our immunity? Through Ayurvedic way. Okay, next slide, please. So there are various concepts mentioned in our Ayurveda through which we can boost our immunity. First of all, that is Dinacharya. In a Dinacharya, there are a lot of things which are mentioned in our Dinacharya which should be followed. And if it is followed in a proper manner, it will surely protect us from getting diseases. For example, there are certain kinds of procedures which are mentioned in our Dinacharya. That is, for example, Danta Dhavan or Mukha Prakshalan, Buddha Prakshalan. All these things are cleansing in nature, or Snanam. All are cleansing in nature. So body purification will take place by these simple methods. If we follow them properly, it itself will protect us from getting any kind of disease. There are certain methods or certain procedures which are mentioned in our Dinacharya which gives us or which improves our bala. For example, Tail Gandush Dharan or Kavala and Gandush Dharan, both things will improve the immunity in our mouth, or the diseases which are seen in our mouth or buccal cavity, that can be reduced by doing this kind of Kavala and Gandusha. Again, Nasya, Abhyanga, Shirobhyanga, Padabhyanga, all these methods which are mentioned in our Dinacharya, all are for strengthening our body. So if that body is strengthened, then surely our immunity will increase. Okay. Again, Vyayama is also explained in our Dinacharya. That also will improve our immunity. Then again, next concept which is mentioned in our Ayurveda for increasing our immunity, that is Rutucharya. Rutucharya is not just synonymous to the seasonal detoxification. Okay. Rutucharya is the charya which is mentioned in our samhitas for each rutu. So as we know, in each rutu there are certain climatic conditions, and because of these certain climatic conditions, that diseases are manifested in our body because of changes in our equilibrium in the doshas at our body level. Okay. So what happens in that particular disease, in that particular rutu, particular dosha, vata, pitta, kapha may be aggravated or pacified, whatever it may be. According to that, the rutucharya has been mentioned in our Ayurveda, and also they have explained about seasonal detoxifications. For example, in Vasanta Rutu, Vamana is the procedure which is explained. In Sharad Rutu, there is Virejana. In Pravrut, there is Basti. All these are for increasing the immunity of the person. Why it is so is because if the doshas are aggravated and if they are removed from our body on time to time, then they may not precipitate the disease. That means the disease will be prevented. That means our immunity will be improved. Okay. The another form, another concept is digestive fire or Jatharagni. Jatharagni is very important, and because as we know, roga sarve api mande yagno. If the Jataragni is proper, then disease manifestation will not be there. For example, as we know, Jataragni has a function to digest our food. First, it will digest our food. If the food is not available, then it will digest our doshas. If doshas are digested and again Jataragni is there, then it will digest dhatus. So this is the sequence in which the Jataragni will digest. Okay, first it will digest food, then it will digest doshas, and then it will digest dhatus. That's why in certain diseases or in any kind of disease we can give langana. Langanam paramoshadam, it is mentioned in our Ayurveda. Because if we give some langana, that means if we restrict the person from taking food, then that Jataragni which is available in that stomach, that will digest the doshas. The aggravated doshas will be digested in the stomach by Jataragni. So if the dosha pachana happens, then disease manifestation will not be there. Because if those aggravated doshas, if they get dosh dushya sammurchana, then only disease will be manifested. But we are digesting them, or dosh pachana is happening at initial level itself, so disease manifestation will not be there. So by improving our Jataragni, we can increase the immunity of the person. Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
think network issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it audible now? Okay.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Yukti Kruta Bala is again can be used for improving our immunity. That can be done by Vyayama as well as yoga. See, for increasing the bala of Sharira, we can use Vyayama, but for increasing or strengthening our mind, we have to use yoga. We have no other option for improving the bala of mind other than yoga. Through yoga only we can improve the bala of mind. So yoga and Vyayama both can be used for Yukti Kruta Bala. Next slide, please. So this Yukti Kruta Bala again can be achieved by three kinds of factors, that is Ahara, Vyayama and Rasayana. If the, as we know, Ahara Sambhava Vastu, Rogastu Ahara Sambhava, that means the disease as well as our sharir or body is because of the diet which we are consuming. So whatever kind of diet we are consuming, according to that the disease will be there or it will be causing our body. So satmya ahara or asatmya ahara can lead to can have a direct impact on our immunity. Also, wholesome diet is also important. If the unwholesome diet is consumed frequently, then it will surely hamper our bala. And wholesome diet is taken, then it will improve our bala. So that can be used for increasing our bala. Next is Vyayama. As we all know, the Vyayama, it is explained that Doshakshaya Agni Ruddhishcha Vyayama Dupajayate. So Doshakshaya is happening because of Vyayama, and also it will improve the Agni. So improving the Agni again itself is improving the immunity of the person. And as I have told, yoga is good for improving the mental conditions or the strength of our mind. Next is Rasayana. By Rasayana also we can improve the bala. The body purification can be done by Panchakarma, and then we can use the things which we are doing. If it is causing Jara and Vyadhi Nashan. Jara means early aging and Vyadhi means disease. If it is happening, then it will be called as Rasayana. So also we can improve the immunity. Next slide, please. So there are anyway, it's okay. So Rasayana can be of 4 types. One is Ahara Rasayana, one is Vihara Rasayana, then Achara Rasayana, and then Aushadha Rasayana. 4 kinds of Rasayana can be there by which we can improve our immunity. First is Ahara Rasayana. That means dietary guidelines, following the dietary guidelines. Ahara can be used as a Rasayana if it is properly taken. There are various guidelines mentioned in our Ayurveda, like Ushnam Ashniyat, Snigdham Ashniyat, Matravat Ashniyat, Jirne Ashniyat, then Ajalpan, Ahasan, Tanmana Punjitam Atmanam, Natidrutam, Nati Vilambitam, everything is mentioned in our Ayurveda. That dietary guidelines, if it is followed properly, that itself will improve the immunity, or it will have a Rasayana property in itself. Because if we follow the dietary guidelines, it will surely cause a good assimilation of that food in our body, and surely it will lead to a rasayana. Okay, that's why we have to follow this ahara rasayana. Another is vihara rasayana. Vihara rasayana means whatever modifications in our lifestyle we are adopting in the way through dinacharya, that is called as vihara rasayana. So the dinacharya, whatever procedures are mentioned, if we adopt them, that itself will increase our body strength, and also it will cause rasayana property in our body. Another is achara rasayana, or there are moral conducts which are mentioned in our Ayurveda as achara rasayana. So whatever conducts they have mentioned, that are having a good positive response in our body at mental as well as physical level. Basically on mental level, if the moral conducts are good, we are having a good rasayana property at our mental level. Our sattva bala will be more if we follow these moral conducts. And again, there are certain medicines which can be used as a rasayana. There are various medicines like Triphala or Brahma Rasayan or Chavanprash Rasayan, Abhayamalgi Rasayan. Various medicines are there which can be used as a Rasayana purpose. So Rasayana itself again will improve the immunity of the person. These medicines are having impact on our Sapta Dhatus. So if the Sapta Dhatu production is in a balanced manner, then it will again lead to a good kind of sattva or ojas formation. The ojas, if it is formed properly, then again it will have impact on our immunity. So to sum up, if we consider immunity in our Ayurveda, we have to consider Agni, then sattva, bala. All these concepts are very much important for understanding immunity in our Ayurveda. So next slide, please. So thank you. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Thank you, Amol sir. There are few queries. I will read one by one.
Okay.
First query is related to the Agni.
Mm-hmm.
How to differentiate between Prakruti and Vikruta Agni?
Mm-hmm. Prakruta and Vikruta Agni.
Yes, yes.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
So as we know, there are 3 kinds of Sama Agni, Vishama Agni, and Tikshna Agni. Okay. If the Agni can be assessed by your digestion, how your digestion is happening, according to that you can assess the Agni. If the ahara which you have taken, if it is digested in a proper way, then your Agni is in a samyak form. If it is delayed, then it is Manda Agni. Uh, if it is happening very fast, then it will be caused as tikshna agni. Means whatever food you are consuming, if it is digested very fast, then your agni is tikshna. According to that, we have to assess the agni of the patient. So we have to ask him how much quantity of ahara he is taking and by what time he is getting the samyaka ahara jirna lakshanas. Okay, by that we can assess the agni of that person and accordingly we can consider.
Then another question is related to the Vyayama. Nowadays, people are doing gym exercises, aerobic exercises.
Okay.
So, how much does it give the immunity? And what are the guidelines in Ayurveda related to the Vyayama?
Yes, yes. It is a very good question actually. See, whatever Vyayama they are doing in gym, it is very much different than what is explained as Vyayama in our Ayurveda. Okay. First of all, what Ayurveda has mentioned is Ardha Shakti Vyayama. That is Ardha Shakti Nishayvastu Balibhi Snigdha Bhojibhi. Those who are having बल गुड बल मीन्स जिनका स्ट्रेंथ अच्छा होता है और जो स्नेह भोजन करते हैं उन लोगों ने अर्धशक्ति व्यायाम करना चाहिए. अर्धशक्ति व्यायाम का भी बताया गया है कि वो किस तरह से हमें डायग्नोस कर सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर फोर हेड पर स्वेटिंग होता है, एक्सिला में स्वेटिंग होता है, टिप ऑफ द नोज पर स्वेटिंग होता है, श्वास वृद्धि होती है, शरीर में लघुता आती है, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अर्धशक्ति व्यायाम. अगर इतना व्यायाम ये किन लोगों ने करना चाहिए? जिनका बल अच्छा है उन लोगों के लिए. Those who are having less bala, then they have to do the व्यायाम less than this. इससे भी कम व्यायाम करना चाहिए, क्योंकि अर्धशक्ति निश्चय वस्तु बलि भी स्निग्ध भोजी भी मंदमेव ततो अन्यथा. मतलब जिनका इससे जो अलग है, जिनका अर्धशक्ति मतलब जिनका बल ऑलरेडी कम है और जो स्निग्ध भोजी नहीं है, उन्होंने इससे कम व्यायाम करना चाहिए. क्योंकि क्या है कि व्यायाम अगर एक्सेसिव करते हैं तो उससे बल नहीं बढ़ेगा. क्योंकि आपको पता होगा कि व्यायाम इज अगेन इज वन ऑफ द हेतु फॉर ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग द दोषास फ्रॉम कोष्ठ टू शाखा. आपने देखा होगा कि जो अगर बढ़े हुए अगर दोष है तो वो दोषों को कोष्ठ में से शाखा में ले जाने के लिए व्यायाम एक कारण होता है. तो व्यायाम अगर एक्सेसिव मात्रा में गलत तरीके से गलत टाइम पर अगर करते हैं तो दैट इटसेल्फ विल कॉज वेरियस डिसीजेस. तो इसलिए इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी हैव टू कंसिडर द व्यायामा इन द फॉर्म व्हिच आयुर्वेदा हैज एक्सप्लेन्ड. इसमें भी जो जिम में जो व्यायाम करते हैं जनरली वो क्या करते हैं, एक पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ मसल पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट करके ही वो व्यायाम करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, वो 7 दिन के लिए सिर्फ बाइसेप्स के लिए व्यायाम करते हैं, फिर 7 दिन के लिए ट्राइसेप्स के लिए करेंगे, फिर 7 दिन के लिए चेस्ट के लिए करते हैं. तो ये जो है ये व्यायाम हमारे आयुर्वेद में एक्सपेक्टेड नहीं है. दूसरी बात है कि हमें एरोबिक एक्सरसाइजेस जो होती है दैट इज वेरी मच गुड और वो हम कंसिडर कर सकते हैं व्यायाम के अंदर. जैसे वॉकिंग हो गया या स्किपिंग हो गया, तो ये सब चीजें जो है वो व्यायाम के अंदर हम कंसिडर कर सकते हैं. वो भी अर्धशक्ति अगर करते हैं तो ही उससे जो व्यायाम से जो मिलने वाले फायदे हैं वो मिल सकते हैं. इससे एक्सेस मात्रा में अगर करेंगे तो श्योरली इट विल कॉज डिसीजेस इन दैट बॉडी. I hope your question is answered.
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to the diabetes. In diabetic patients, what is the status of the Agni and why they are getting more diseases than the other people?
Okay. Actually, diabetes में क्या होता है कि diabetes is nothing but increased क्लेद in our body. जो शरीर में जो क्लेद है वो बढ़ा हुआ होता है डायबिटीज में. तो डायबिटीज के पेशेंट में क्या होता है, क्लेद बढ़ा हुआ होने के कारण उनका अग्नि तीक्ष्ण नहीं होता है. उनको अगर उनका तीक्ष्ण अग्नि होता तो उनका डाइजेशन प्रॉपर होके जो फूड का एसिमिलेशन है वो सही तरीके से हो सकता और शरीर में क्लेद बनेगा ही नहीं. अनलेस एंड अंटिल मंद अग्नि इज देयर, शरीर में क्लेद फॉर्म ही नहीं हो पाएगा. तो इसलिए डायबिटीज में मंद अग्नि ही होता है. उनको बार बार भूख लगती है, दैट इज अगेन वो डिफरेंट है, क्योंकि उनको जो वो फूड खाया हुआ है उन्होंने वो शरीर में एसिमिलेट नहीं हो पाता है, उसके कारण उनको बार बार खाने की इच्छा होती है. बट इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि उनको तीक्ष्ण अग्नि है. ठीक है, क्योंकि डाइजेशन प्रॉपर हुआ है कि नहीं इसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है उसका अग्नि स्टेटस क्या है. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to the Nitya Sevaniya Ahar and Anitya Sevaniya Ahar. How does it contribute to the immunity?
नित्य सेवनीय आहार एंड नित्य असेवनीय आहार, राइट। नित्य सेवनीय आहार जो है वो, यस, नित्य सेवनीय आहार जो कहे गए हैं वो सभी जो फूड आइटम्स उसमें कहे गए हैं, जैसे शाली धान्य है, षष्टिक शाली राइस है, फिर गोधुम है, माक्षिक है, ये सब चीजें अगर आप देखेंगे तो वो एक्सेसिव खाने के लिए नहीं कहा गया है, बट वो रेगुलरली अगर हम खाएंगे तो भी हमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ऐसा कहा गया है। इसका मतलब क्या है कि कोई भी चीज अगर हम रेगुलरली ज्यादा दिन तक अगर खाते हैं तो उसका हमें एक्सेस सेवन हो सकता है, बट ये जो नित्य सेवनीय आहार जो कहे गए हैं वो ऐसे आहार द्रव्य है जो हमारे शरीर को नित्य सेवन करने के बाद भी अफेक्ट नहीं करते, बट अगेन इट शुड बी टेकन इनटू द क्वांटिटी विच इज रेकमेंडेड। अगर एक्सेस क्वांटिटी में अगर खाएंगे तो दैट इटसेल्फ विल लीड टू डिसीजेस। ओके, जैसे आप देख सकते हैं कि राइस अगर है तो राइस कितना खाना चाहिए, किस तरह से पका के खाना चाहिए, वैसे ही अगर खाते हैं तो ही वो नित्य सेवनीय है। अगर वो राइस को आप इम्प्रॉपर वे से अगर वो आप कंज्यूम करते हैं तो वो नित्य सेवनीय हम नहीं कह सकते उसको। जैसे राइस के आप कुछ फर्मेंट करके अगर उससे कुछ प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं और उसको नित्य सेवन करते हैं तो दैट इज नॉट एट ऑल रिकमेंडेड। ओके, और नित्य असेवनीय जो है वो सब तीक्ष्ण द्रव्यों में आता है। तो जो तीक्ष्ण द्रव्य है वो अग्नि बढ़ाते हैं, बट वो अग्नि इस तरह से नहीं बढ़ाते हैं जो हमें एक्सपेक्टेड है। और उसमें नित्य असेवनीय में क्षार द्रव्य है ज्यादा करके। तो क्षार द्रव्य जो होते हैं वो धातु शैथिल्य निर्माण करने का काम करते हैं। तो दैट अगेन इज नॉट इट विल नॉट कंट्रीब्यूट टू एनी काइंड ऑफ इम्यूनिटी। धातु शैथिल्य नहीं होना चाहिए, कि धात्वाग्नि सही है तो ही वो जो फॉर्मेशन होगा तो ही इम्यूनिटी बिल्टअप हो पाएगी। ओके,
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to this Thaulya.
ओके।
How to increase immunity of this Thaulya having people?
जिनको स्थौल्य है उनका इम्यूनिटी कैसे इंप्रूव करना है?
Yes, sir.
ओके, बिकॉज द कंडीशन, स्थौल्य की जो कंडीशन है वो इटसेल्फ इज हैम्परिंग द धात्वांतर परिणमन, है ना। क्योंकि उनका क्या होता है कि मेदो धातु तक पोषण होता है, उसके बाद का जो पोषण है वो हैम्पर हो चुका होता है, इसलिए उनका इम्यूनिटी नहीं बढ़ पाता है। इसलिए स्थौल्य के पेशेंट को बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स होने लगते हैं। ठीक है, तो उनमें क्या है कि सबसे पहले उनका मेद धातु का जो परिणमन है अस्थि मज्जा शुक्र में होने का, तो वो पहले हमें प्रॉपर करना है धात्वाग्नि को मैनेज करके। अगर धात्वाग्नि प्रॉपर रहेगा तो वो अपने आप ठीक होगा, और उसके लिए हम व्यायाम जो है वो बहुत अच्छी तरीके से इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं उसकी धात्वाग्नि को करेक्ट करने के लिए। कि व्यायाम में क्या है कि व्यायाम एक ऐसी चीज है जो दोषों का क्षय भी करता है, मेद का क्षय भी करता है, और धात्वाग्नि और जाठराग्नि दोनों को बढ़ाने का भी काम करता है। तो उसको अगर हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं सही तरीके से तो उसमें हम उसका इम्यूनिटी बढ़ा सकते हैं थ्रू व्यायाम।
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to the suvarna prashan.
Okay. What is
How
the
does
question?
suvarna prashan increase the immunity?
How does suvarna prashan increase the immunity? सुवर्ण प्राशन जो है वो इम्यूनिटी इंक्रीज करता है क्योंकि उसमें जो द्रव्य दिए गए हैं वो रसायन प्रॉपर्टी के हैं। आपने देखा होगा जो सुवर्ण यूज किया जाता है उसमें, और जो बाकी चीजें भी यूज की जाती है जनरली उसमें हनी ज्यादा होता है। तो हनी एक अगेन इट इज अ रसायन प्रॉपर्टी, तो वो रसायन प्रॉपर्टी की तरह काम करता है, इसीलिए वो इम्यूनिटी को बढ़ाता है।
Next question is related to the nidra. What should be the exact hours of the nidra to increase the immunity?
एग्जैक्ट आवर्स ऑफ द निद्रा इसमें क्या है, निद्रा की क्वांटिटी से ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है। होता है, वो डिपेंड करता है। देयर आर सर्टेन पीपल हु आर टेकिंग ओनली 3 to 4 hours of sleep and then also they are having good immunity. There are certain people those who are taking 8 hours of nidra, then also they are not having good immunity. That is because ये सब डिपेंड करता है, ये एक ही चीज पर नहीं अवलंबन। that also can be good, but quality of sleep अगर ठीक नहीं है तो आप 8 घंटे सो के भी उससे इम्यूनिटी नहीं बढ़ेगा, है ना। अगर आपका 4 घंटे में नींद कंप्लीट होता है तो आपका इम्यूनिटी, दैट itself is good for you. It is not necessary that you should extend your sleeping time to 8 hours. Quality of sleep is important rather than quantity of sleep. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to the Brahmamurta.
Okay.
How does Brahmamurta help in the immunity?
Okay, that's a very good question actually. See, ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में क्या है कि जो हमारा सर्कैडियन साइकिल है वो उसके रिलेटेड है। ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में अगर हम उठते हैं तो सबसे पहली बात है कि वो जो काल है वो वात का काल है। तो वेगोत्सर्ग जो है वो ठीक तरीके से हो सकता है। दूसरी बात, वो टाइम अगर हमने अवॉइड कर दिया तो हमारा वेगोत्सर्ग जो है वो ठीक तरीके से नहीं होता है। दैट अगेन इटसेल्फ हैम्पर्स अवर इम्यूनिटी। दूसरी एक बात होती है कि वो सत्व बल उसमें ज्यादा होता है। अगर ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में उठते हैं तो उसमें सत्व बहुत ज्यादा होता है, तो इसलिए हमारा इम्यूनिटी जो है वो उसमें बढ़ता है। दूसरी बात है कि अगर ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में उठना है पर फिर भी अगर आपका इनडाइजेशन है, आपका जो रात में जो खाया हुआ फूड है वो डाइजेस्टेड नहीं है, तो ऐसा कहा गया है कि आपको उठने की जरूरत नहीं है, आप फिर से नींद ले सकते हैं। जब तक आपका डाइजेशन, जो खाया हुआ फूड है वो डाइजेस्ट नहीं हो जाता है, तब तक आपने उठना नहीं है। तो ब्राह्म मुहूर्त है फिर भी आपने वो डाइजेस्टेड अगर नहीं है, इनडाइजेस्टेड है, तो उठने की जरूरत नहीं है, सो सकते हैं। बट वो डाइजेस्ट अगर हो चुका है तो ब्राह्म मुहूर्त में सर्टनली उठना चाहिए। और वो जो टाइम पीरियड है एक्चुअली इट इज रिलेटेड टू अवर सर्कैडियन रिदम जो होता है हमारे बॉडी में, उससे रिलेटेड होता है, इसलिए हमारा इम्यूनिटी उससे बढ़ता है।
Thank you, sir. Next question is related to the Jalapan. Ushad
Okay.
Jalapan, does it help in the immunity?
उषद जलपान, sorry I didn't understand what is.
Having the Jalapan in the morning, does it help in the immunity?
Actually it is no, we have never seen this ushad jalapan mentioned in our Ayurveda. I don't know from where this concept have come.
I think it is explained in the Bhava Prakash.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't actually, I have to read about that. I don't have any clarification regarding that.
Ashtaprasruti, we have to take the Jalapan in the morning. Let's proceed to the next question. Ahar Vidhi and Kal. What should be the guidelines for boosting the immunity?
Ahar vidhi and kala.
Yes, sir.
ओके, सी आहार विधि जो है, आहार विधि में आप जो चीजें बताई गई है उसको प्रॉपरली अगर फॉलो करते हैं तो हम इम्यूनिटी को बढ़ा सकते हैं। जैसे आहार विधि में जो मात्रा शिष्यात, उष्णमश्नीयात, स्निग्धमश्नीयात, मात्रा, ये सब जो चीजें कही गई है उसको अगर प्रॉपरली फॉलो करते हैं तो दैट इज सेल्फ विल इम्प्रूव द इम्यूनिटी। फॉर एग्जांपल उष्णमश्नीयात मतलब कि बहुत अच्छा हो सकता है। वही अगर स्टेल फूड है जो बहुत ज्यादा देर तक रखा हुआ है या पुनरुष्णीकृत फूड है तो वो सब अगेन उसमें तमस गुण बढ़ता है। तमस गुण बढ़ेगा तो उसका निगेटिव इम्पैक्ट शरीर और मन दोनों चीजों पे आता है और हमारा इम्यूनिटी डिक्रीज होता है। ठीक है, फिर उसके बाद वो उष्ण मशीन वो आत्मा अग्नि वाला अपेक्षणीय है। मतलब आपका अग्नि किस तरह से है उसके ऊपर ही आपके आहार की मात्रा डिसाइड करनी चाहिए। फिर जो अग्नि अगर आपका सम्यक है तो आप दिन में 2 बार खाना खाने के लिए कहा गया है। अग्नि अगर मंद है तो आपको दिन में 1 ही बार खाना खाने के लिए कहा गया है। अगेन ये सब चीजें इंटर रिलेटेड है क्योंकि अग्नि को वो हैम्पर करती है। अधिक मात्रा में गुरु भोजन अगर करते हैं तो अग्नि मंद होगा, मंद अग्नि होगा तो इम्यूनिटी आपका कम हो जाएगा। अगर लघु आहार है और सम्यक मात्रा में किया हुआ है तो वो अग्नि संदुक्षण का काम करता है, इम्यूनिटी को बढ़ाने का काम करता है। फिर व्हाट इज दैट नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन?
काल काल आहार काल.
हेलो, व्हाट इज द सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ दैट क्वेश्चन?
Hello. Yes,
What is
sir.
the second
Ahar
part of
kal.
that
I
question?
think it is already answered.
Okay.
Next question is related to the sattva. Which Ayurvedic practices increase the sattva?
Which Ayurvedic practices increase the sattva?
Yes, sir.
That Achara Rasana, which is mentioned in our Samhita, that itself is good for improving our sattva. Then न वेगान धारणीय अध्याय जो है उसमें जो धारणीय वेगों को कहा गया है उसको अगर प्रॉपरली फॉलो करते हैं तो वो भी सत्व को बढ़ाने के लिए काम कर सकता है।
The next question is related to the exercise. Can exercise be done anytime or is it to be done only in the morning?
एनी टाइम तो नहीं कर सकते हैं क्योंकि एक्सरसाइज जो करनी है वो आपका जब खाली पेट है तभी एक्सरसाइज करनी है। अगर आपने कुछ खाया हुआ है और आप एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं तो सर्टनली इट विल हैम्पर योर डाइजेशन और फिर से वो डिसीज प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए कॉज हो सकता है, वो कारण हो सकता है। इसलिए जब आपका डाइजेशन प्रॉपरली हो चुका है तभी आपको एक्सरसाइज करना चाहिए। तो वो आप मॉर्निंग में भी कर सकते हैं, इवनिंग में भी कर सकते हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर डाइजेशन।
Thank you, sir, for having the elaborate question and answer session. We will proceed to the next keynote speaker. Dr. Dipti madam, I have given a presenter role. You can now share your presentation.
Thank you, Ravish. I just shared the screen. Is it visible?
Not yet. Yes, it is visible now.
So the title slide is visible, I guess, now.
No. Yes, it is now visible. Can you make it into the presentation mode?
Yeah, presentation mode.
Yes, it is visible now.
Okay. So shall I start?
Please proceed.
Okay.
Yes.
A warm good afternoon to one and all present here. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dhanvantari Ayurveda College and Hospital for taking such an initiative for preparing this platform, though it is online platform, to share knowledge regarding such an important topic, that is immunity. And also, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers for inviting me to be a part of this webinar today. Offering all my pranamas to Lord Dhanvantari and my gurus, I will start off with my presentation. The topic being yoga for immunity. Actually, Dr. Amol has given an in-detailed description regarding the concept of immunity, and in between he has touched on the aspect of yoga also. So that has made my work much more easier. Still, I'll share with you my views. Immunity, as we all know, it is a much talked about topic. Almost for the past about to be 1.5 years, we are listening to various aspects related to immunity, various measures which we can adopt to boost up the immunity, especially with the COVID pandemic affecting the life all over the globe. We are seeking the measures which can help us improve our immunity so that we can combat this disease in particular. But each and every time when a new disease emerges, we always go looking forward towards many such things which can help us in defending that particular disease. But as the previous speaker was mentioning, the more effective way to defend a disease is rather having a stronger inborn immunity. Like keeping the body healthy always is the prime motto to prevent any sort of disease which may emerge from different time to time. So that is the significance of this very topic, because we are observing that the disease burden is continuously increasing in the community. And every year we come across one or the other new disease, a new infectious disease. And what is the result of this disease burden, increasing disease burden, is that it is hampering our economy of the nation. So the direct and indirect medical cost associated with a particular disease is actually a big challenge as far as a developing country like India is concerned. So rather than seeking the medical cure, or rather than trying to get the medicines or vaccines which may be specific to a particular disease, it is more wiser to have a strong immunity which can be derived through various measures of related to the lifestyle. So basically, as we know that immunity is a natural defense mechanism of the body which can protect us against the disease. Technically speaking, a person is said to be immune when he is possessing specific protective antibodies which he derived from previous infections, or he has cellular immunity derived through vaccinations or immunization, or somehow he is conditioned by previous experiences in a way that he can prevent the infection once he is exposed to a specific infectious agent. Okay, so that means his ability to defend against a specific infectious agent which has acquired previously through an infection or immunization, which will be resulting in an immune response in the body. That is the state of being immune. And as it has been already told, immunity classified into innate and acquired. And coming to the terminologies like Vyadikshamatvam, Balam, Ojas, all has been detailed by the previous speaker. I'll just rush through that. The Vyadikshamatvam Bala is classified into Sahaja and Arjidam, and again this Arjidam is divided into Kalajam and Yuktikritam. So broadly we can say that Vyadikshamatvam is Sahajam, Kalajam and Yuktikritam. Now, I won't go to the details of Sahaja and Kalaja. Yuktikritam. What is Yuktikritam? Yukti. The term means Yuktistu Yojana. Yojana means combining. And in what way shall we combine? It should be based on a reasoning. We should analyze all the available factors and we should select most conducive ones from those. ऐसा नहीं है कि जो भी है आहार है या विहार है जो भी है blindly we can follow anything. We have to analyze each and everything in detail, and then we have to select those which are most favorable to our health. So that is meant by yukti. Okay, so it has been said that yukti is ahara cheshtadi yogajam. Ahara and viharas are included in this, ahara and cheshta. And cheshta, uchita visrama vyayamadi. So it's not only vyayama but also visrama. The body needs both vyayama as well as rest. So everything has to be considered, and most favorable things are to be combined together in terms of diet and lifestyle activities so that it can support the immune status or the bala of the body. And it is under this heading that we can incorporate or accommodate the terminology yoga. Now, when the yoga was founded long back, what were the aims laid down were Samadhi Bhavanartham and Klesha Tanukaranartham. Samadhi Bhavanartham actually deals with the spiritual level, attainment of Samadhi, that is merging into the universe or being one with the Paramatma. All this thing goes to the spiritual levels. Whereas Klesha Tanukaranartham, Klesha means any unfavorable experience. It may be physical, it may be mental. So any unfavorable or something which gives discomfort to us can be considered as klesha. So we can include all the diseases and all the reasons which can cause diseases under this heading. So yoga, from the time it was founded, was aimed at preventing these factors which can cause a disease. So we can say that it has some effect on boosting up the individual immunity. And according to yoga philosophy, how a disease is thought to be originating. It starts with avidya, progresses through asmita, ragam, dvesham, abhinivesham. Avidya is nothing but the state of ignorance. As I was telling previously, concerned to yukti, we have to think about the favorable and non-unfavorable things, and we have to select wisely. And this avidya or ignorance, it is the root cause for each and every person getting involved into things which are non-conducive to his health. So it may be ahara, it may be vihara, it may be anything. So when there is ignorance, it can always lead to a disease. And this ignorance or avidya leads to asmita. Asmita means the feeling of I-ness. We'll be self-centered. Will not be related to the others or the surrounding environment, and will be self-centered, which will again have a limited thought process will be there. We'll be thinking only regarding ourselves and our likes. So there will be restriction to the thought process. And this will create ragam and dvesham. Ragam is likes and dvesham is dislikes, which is driven by the avidya and asmita. And ultimately, we'll be indulging in abhinivesha. Abhinivesha means staying clinched upon something which we feel is good for us, but it may not be always true. Okay, based on our ragam and dvesham, we may adopt certain things and we may believe that it is what we want and we wish to stay attached to that. But the situation, the real situation may not always be that it is beneficial. It may also be harmful to the body. So in that way, the yoga has explained the origin of a disease. Now, coming to the definitions of yoga, as we can see in different textbooks, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So yoga has been advised as a tool to control the chitta vrittis. Chitta vrittis, pramana, viparya, vikalpam, nidra, and spriti. So different mental fluctuations or the mental disturbances can be controlled by the practice of yoga. So here it says that yoga has an impact on the mental faculty. Then comes the mana prashamanopaya. Again, it focuses on the effect of yoga in controlling or pacifying the mental faculty or the like rajas and tamo gunas. Then yoga karmaso kaushalam. Karma means any activity one is indulging in, and kaushalam, the skill to execute that task in perfect manner. Whatever activities we are performing in a day, that should be executed in the best possible way to have a satisfaction out of that task. Otherwise, again, it can lead to mental disturbances, which can precipitate in the form of various diseases. So this means that this definition of yoga, yoga karmasu kaushalam, implies on the development of the skill to perform in the best possible way. And this skill may not be only physical, it relates to mental, emotional, social, all types of skills included here. And lastly, the definition of yoga as laid down by Charagacharya, Atmendriya Manoarthanam Sannikarshat Pravartate Sukha Dukkha Manarambhat Atmasthe Manasi Sthire Nivartate Tadubhayam Prashitvam Chobajayate Swasharirasya Yogapyam Tam Yogam Prashayovikim. So what it says is every experience an individual has, whether it may be an experience, a feel-good experience or a feel-bad experience, whether it may be a sukha or a dukkha, it is derived out of an interaction between the Atma, Manas, Indriyas and the Indriyarthas. So Atma and Manas, through Indriyarthas, we are getting connected to the external world. So our level of interaction or level of involvement into the external environment defines or decides the resultant experience we may derive out of it. It may be favorable, it may be unfavorable. So what is advised is, if we could cut off this interaction of the Atma and Manas to the Indriyas and Indriyarthas, what will happen? The Atma and Manas will be in its natural state. It will be confined to the self. It will be in the natural state. And by that, there will be, we can stop the external experiences like Sukha and Dukkha. And this state has been defined as yoga. So, which means that it is nothing but a method to have a ultimate control over our body and our mind. So, through these definitions, we can conclude that yoga has a multidimensional impact. It has a physical effect, it has a mental effect, it can improve the emotional domain as well as the spiritual domain of an individual. And what is immune response basically? An immune response is an interaction or talk between the brain and the immune system. So whatever external stimuli or the stressor is perceived by the brain, the message is sent to the immune system and changes take place there, which send back the messages to the brain, and ultimately the immune response is executed. And this is carried out through two pathways. One is hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis and the sympathetic nervous system. So basically these two pathways are responsible for an immune activity taking place in the body. And this is in brief what happens when a stressor is any external stimuli, external or internal stimuli, which may be physical or mental or environmental. It will stimulate the HPA axis, which will result in the secretion of corticotropin releasing hormone, which in turn stimulates the adrenocorticotropin hormone, ultimately resulting in the production of the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, you all know. So there will be increased production of the stress hormone. And at the same time, the CRH also stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and inhibits the immune mediators. So that way it regulates the immune responses in the body. And yoga has an opposite effect. Yoga will calm down the this cortisol secretion, thereby stimulating the production of the immune mediators so that the immune response can be effectively carried out. And another terminology related to this aspect is psychoneuroimmunology. As we were in the previous presentation, we had seen that how sattva or the vishada can be related to the onset and progression of a disease. Definitely, each and every disease is now known to be having a psychosomatic origin. And in Ayurveda also, we know Taptaje Khatayoriva concept has been highlighted that whenever there is an affliction on the mind, it will be reflected on the body and vice versa. So we cannot think of mind and body separate. So in immunology also, both psyche as well as the brain are equally involved. So that is the concept of psychoneuroimmunology. And what it says that is an interaction between the psyche, that is the physical body, neural functions, endocrine functions, and the immune responses. So sum total of all these factors. And here basically two-way interactions can happen. Either there may be changes in the neuroendocrine functioning, which can alter the immune responses in the body, or it can happen the other way. That means there will be immune responses which can modify the neuroendocrine functions. So the psychoneuroimmunology is carried out in either of the two ways. And it has been observed in various clinical works that the psychoneuroimmunology can be greatly altered by the behavioral processes. And yoga is one such known behavioral process. So when we are involving in a practice of yoga, it can have an impact on our psychoneuroimmunology also. So in various clinical researches, it have been concluded that these are the various benefits of yoga. What is it? Improves the flexibility and muscle tone, thereby enhancing the strength and endurance. It reduces the stress and relieves the anxiety and also stimulates the brain functions. It can reduce the risks of cardiovascular diseases by minimizing obesity, dyslipidemia, and hypertension. And it can improve the respiratory functions also. It improves the sleep patterns, which is very essential for a good status of health and also for boosting up the immunity, as we had previously discussed. Thus, it can overall enhance the well-being and quality of life of an individual. So, the most practiced form of yoga today is the Ashtanga Yoga, which starts with the practice of Yama Niyama, progresses through Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, and ultimately towards the Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So in the coming slides, we'll just have a brief look on how each of these steps can help in promoting the immunity or can lead us towards a healthy living. Coming to Yama and Niyama, of course, there are more than these Yamas and Niyamas mentioned in different texts like Hatha Yoga Pratipika. I'm restricting myself to the references from Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Yama Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam, Brahmacharyam, Aparigraham. Niyamas, Shauja, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanam. So as you can see, these are not only physical. These have terminologies related to Sattva. These have terminologies related to emotion level also. So these are nothing but the moral codes and conducts which one must practice so as to have a disciplined living. And a disciplined living will definitely help us to have a minimum exposure to the external stimuli or external stresses. So we can relate these concept of Yama and Niyama with the Sadvritta or the Achara Rasayanam, as has been mentioned in the Ayurveda. And through this, what happens is we can enhance our physical, mental, and emotional domains. And by this, we will be having a lesser tendency towards Prajnaparadham. Prajnaparadham, Thriti Smriti Vibhamshat, Karmayat Kurute Ashubham. And we know that Prajnaparadham is one of the basic causes for all the diseases identified. So once we are disciplined, when we are living a disciplined life, we will be having least inclination towards Prajnaparadham. Next stages of the Yogasanas. Yogasana is nothing but the physical postures. And it has been defined that Hatasya Prathamang Gatvadasanam Purvam Uchyate, Kuryatadasanam Sthairyam Arogyam Cha Angalaghavam. So there itself the term Arogyam has been mentioned. That means it can help in maintaining the state of Arogya. Arogya is the health status. So definitely if a person is healthy, it means that his immune status is strong. So thus Yogasanas can be related to a measure or a tool for attaining a good immune status. Definitely, it has the benefits of Vyayama because it helps in minimizing the adipose tissue and it gives the laghava or the lightness to the body, and also the Shithila Dhatus or the Shithila body parts can be strengthened by the practice of Yogasanas in particular. So it helps in increasing the physical strength and endurance. Moreover, it also has metabolic effects. There are various yogasanas wherein specifically it has been mentioned that it helps to improve the metabolic functions. The Agni can be stimulated by performing yogasanas. For example, Paschimottanasana, Pavanamuktasana, all those asanas have been specifically told to be improving the metabolic functions. And as we were seeing in the previous presentation, according to concept of Ayurveda, the maintenance of a proper Agni is equally important in enhancing the immune status. So that way also we can relate it to the immunity. And the last point is expansion of awareness. We know Prayatna Shaitilya and Ananta Samapatti are the two benefits told regarding the yoga asanas. So this Ananta Samapatti is nothing but the expansion of awareness. So we'll be having an in-depth analysis and awareness regarding the various factors around us, and we can select more wisely among them. Next stage is the stage of pranayama. It is the respiratory practices. Definitely it has respiratory benefits. It can improve the lung capacity, it can enhance the lung volume and lung functions also. So that way also it can help in defending against the invading bacteria, microbes. At the same time, it can balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. See, respiratory system is the only system in the body which has both voluntary as well as involuntary components. So you can modulate this respiratory system at your own will. No other system gives us that freedom. So we can slow down our breath, we can speed up our breath, all that we can do voluntarily. So through this voluntary stimulation, we can bring about changes in the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So that way a balance can be created, which will be resulting in a better neuroendocrine functioning, leading to the better immune responses. Next is the state of pratyahara, which is actually a bridge between the previous 4 and the next 3 stages. And it is nothing but indriya jayam, that is withdrawing our senses from the external objects and focusing within ourselves. So this indriya jayam again is very important in minimizing our interactions with the external stressors, like the food or the drinks or the gadgets, anything which is external stimulus, which in long-term use or used in excess can create a negative stress, or the distress in the body can be controlled by the practice of pratyahara. So it reduces the exposure to external stresses, which is asatmindriyartha samyoga, another cause for the disease, and also helps in minimizing prajnaparada. So again, it is a control over the indriyas. Next 2 stages, that is dharana, focusing stage, and dhyana, the stage of meditation, helps to make ourselves more and more self-aware. Okay, so in this stage, we'll be having a thorough analysis of our own body, of our own mind. Okay, and thereby we can understand what our strengths and weaknesses are there in our body, and accordingly we can select the measures available to improve them. So that will again help to reduce the asatmindriyartha samyoga and prajnaparadha, which can prevent the diseases. Thus, moving through all these 7 stages, we can attain the stage of samadhi. Practically speaking, samadhi can be understood as an ultimate state of ultimate peace and blissful living. And when a person can be peaceful or having a blissful living is when he is having a complete state of health. So, even though the samadhi terminology has been explained in a spiritual manner while dealing with the concepts of yoga, we can say that a samadhi is nothing but a state of healthy living. When we are not afflicted by any diseases, we can say we are in a state of samadhi practically. So, through all these measures, we can prepare ourselves or prepare our mind and body to stay away from the factors which can weaken or which can hamper the immune system and lead to diseases. And in addition to these, there are Shatkarmas, the purificatory therapies. Detailed mention of purificatory therapies are available in the yogic textbooks. And these purificatory therapies, as we say in our Ayurveda, the Panchavida Shodhana Karmas, help to purify the physiological systems in the body and thereby ensure that they are functioning in their best possible way. And when the all physiological functions will be adequately met in the body, definitely there will be a state of homeostasis, which we otherwise call as the state of health. So these purificatory therapies helps us in maintaining the homeostasis in the body. And again, the ahara niyamas mentioned in relation to yogasanas and pranayama, the concept of mithahara in yoga, again helps in involving a sattvic diet or the appropriate diet, which will not produce an increase in the rajas or the tamo guna, and which will not make us more and more inclined towards the unhealthy practices. So all these, in addition to the Ashtanga Yoga, helps in promoting the immune status. Now, I'll share with you a few research papers wherein you can understand the effect of yoga in boosting up immunity. So here, research work is there, which was conducted on healthy volunteers, which were the university students. And I would like to state one thing, that whatever research papers you go through, you will find a fact that none of the single technique has been studied. That means yoga is an integrated science. So it takes into account both the psyche as well as the body, mind and body together. So you will always find references regarding an integrated therapy. It will be a combination of yoga, pranayama, meditation. So that itself helps us to understand that we cannot see a disease or we cannot see a person in individual as being the body alone or being the mind alone. So we have to give due consideration to each and every aspect. So here, it was a combination of yogasanas, pranayama, and meditation, which was practiced for 40 minutes daily over a period of 12 weeks. And the parameters studied were the oxidative stress or antioxidant components, the immune-related cytokines, and stress hormones in the serum or plasma. At the end of the study, it was observed that there was a significant reduction in the nitric oxide F2 isoprostane and lipid peroxidase, which indicate towards the stress, a level of stress in the body. So they were reduced. So that means the stress levels were reduced in the body. And there was a remarkable increase in the serum total glutathione activities of GSH peroxidase and transferase. So which means that the immune system were functioning more in a more better way. Again, there was a significant increase in the immune-related cytokines, for example, interleukin 12, etc., and a significant reduction in the levels of adrenaline and serotonin was also observed. So this again shows that how physiologically we can relate to the changes which are taking place in the body by the practice of yoga. There is another study wherein the first year MBBS students were observed, especially during the examination stress. And the yoga was advised to this. It was an RCT. And again, the physiological parameters like the heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure, which is usually seen to increase during the examination stress, was observed to be remained unchanged in the group which was performing yoga, whereas it was increased as usual in the control group. And the physiological stress indicators were also seen to be decreasing in the yoga group. And the discussion part of the study says that the physiological parameters like the heart rate and the blood pressure rate, which were seen to decrease with yoga, could be due to the inhibition of the sympathetic nervous system. So that when the sympathetic nervous system is relaxed, so there will not be any stress activities will not be there, and the body will be at rest. Then the relaxing effect of yoga is related to the stimulus of the, decreased stimulus on the hypothalamus, and thereby resulting in decrease in the cortisol secretion. And again, it says that there is a buffering action of yoga on the stress-induced decrease in the cellular immunity. So again, it will improve the immune responses in the body. Yet another study which states that yoga can be effectively administered in the inflammatory conditions also. Okay, not only in the infectious diseases, but also in the inflammatory conditions. It has observed that the pro-inflammatory markers can be reduced by the practice of yoga. Again, this is another systemic review study which has observed through various researches that yoga can increase the amount of antibodies and other immune-related mediators, which will ensure a better immune function in the body. And here are the findings of another study which states that yoga maintains a balance in the autonomic nervous system through enhancing the parasympathetic activity and lowering the sympathetic activity. This we had already stated previously. And also there is an improvement in the secretion of gamma, that is the inhibitory neurotransmitter, which will again reduce the level of stress and let the immune system perform perfectly. Then the stress hormones like cortisol can also be balanced through the yoga practice along with the practice of pranayama. So when we are slowing down our breath, it will have an inverse relationship with the cortisol levels. And definitely it improves the blood circulation so that a proper oxygenated blood is available to all the organs, including brain, for optimum functioning. To conclude, I would say that immunity is a sum total of the responses born out of the interactions between the brain and the immune system, which is influenced by numerous factors, including physical, mental, emotional, as well as environmental stimuli. And behavioral practice can modulate the immunity. Yoga, which is one such behavioral practice, has a multidimensional role in boosting up the immunity. Now, here is a brief from Dr. Aarti Sood Mahajan, who says that, who has found out that yogic immunomodulation, how it can affect various aspects of the health. The yogic immunomodulation can affect the genetic level. It can improve the cellular immunity. It can decrease the stress response in the body, and thus it can enhance the by reducing the stress response, it can reduce the inflammatory response, prevent even the metabolic deterioration, because the metabolic deterioration again is a big cause which can open the doorway of many diseases in the body by weakening the immune system. So that also is prevented by yoga. And again, even the autoimmune responses are observed to be reducing by the practice of yoga. So this is the overall impact of yoga observed in various studies. With that, I would like to conclude the paper. Thank you once again for all your patient listening, and thank you the organizers for inviting me here today. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now we will go to the queries. First query is related to the cancer. In cancer, we are giving the chemotherapy, and because of that, there are chances of lesser immunity. So, how yoga can help in the chemotherapy patients?
Okay. Again, the cancer studies were available, but I didn't go in specific disease-wise disease. You can refer the research works. There are ample number of studies available in yoga conducted in the cancer patients, wherein you can see these stress hormones or the deterioration that has been created by the chemotherapy could be, I won't say reversed, but it can be to some extent it can improve through yoga. There are ample number of researches available.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the sleep. Which kind of yogic practices can improve the sleep and from the sleep immunity?
Okay. So various practices of yoga means for improving the sleep quality. Again, I would say that the quantity is not important. The quality of sleep is more important. So the person can have a good sleep only if he is having a peaceful mind. So definitely yogasanas also have a role in improving the sleep quality, but more than that, the pranayama practices, which will help us to slow down the sympathetic responses in the body, that will be more useful in improving the quality of sleep. And also the practice of meditation. There are various techniques of meditation which have been evolved by various yoga universities, like the cyclic meditation or various other forms of meditation are also there, that will be helping in relaxing the mind completely, and by that we can have a good quality of sleep. And the previous speaker has very well explained how a good quality sleep is related to the immunity. So I think I need not repeat that.
The next question is related to the hypersensitivity of the immune system. For example, in case of asthma, what can be done by the yoga?
In hypersensitivity condition, what we can do is there is a technique called desensitization. For example, as you have asked regarding asthma, one of the major factors for asthma is 90% of the asthma is basically allergic asthma. So that is a response of our mucous membrane, starting from the eyes, nose, and the GI, and further moving down. So we need to desensitize these areas. And the purificatory therapies like neti, etc., help in desensitizing these areas so that we can, whenever such allergic stimulus comes in contact with the mucous membrane, it can respond in a better way. It will not precipitate the disease, and it can have a better response. And further, the practices of pranayama that will improve the lung functions. So there are breathing practice exercises are there. For example, the hand stretch breathing, the hands in and out breathing, various breathing techniques are there apart from the proper pranayama practices, which can also help in improving the lung function, so that whenever there is an external allergen entering into the body, the lung tissues can better respond to them. And also there are yoga asanas which can help in expanding the chest cavity. For example, the Bhujangasana is there, and the Ardhapati Chakrasana is there, which can help the expanding the chest cavity so that more of air can be accumulated in the body. So, I mean, in that particular organ. So such practices helps in desensitizing the areas which, and thereby helps in preventing the diseases.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the Omkar chanting. How does Omkar chanting help in the increasing the immunity?
Okay, Omkar chanting is a very good practice because Om is basically A, U, and Ma. And when we chant these three syllables individually, different parts of the body or different chakras of the body are stimulated. And by the stimulation of these chakras, the overall, the system of the body is stimulated so as to perform in the best way. So through this chanting, one part is there is a mental relaxation is there because it is focusing on the meditative part of the yoga. So by chanting the mantras, including the Om mantra, we are having a sort of relaxation, a mental relaxation. And at the same time, through the stimulation of the chakras, there is happening a physiological improvement also. So that way we can prevent the diseases through Omkar chanting.
The next question is related to the digital detoxification. Nowadays, people are addicted to the digital devices. So how can yoga help in the digital detoxification?
That is, I was talking in length throughout the paper. Once we are inclined towards a gadget, why? Because there is no particular reason actually. We are finding a temporary pleasure by using such devices. So, but actually it is not the need. You do not need that gadget to survive. Every gadget is supposed to do just the required function. For example, a phone, what is a phone used for? For making calls, messages, and in such situations that we are going through, it may also be used for the sharing of knowledge. Definitely true. But everything should have a healthy limit. Once you are using it in excess, definitely it will result in a disease. So by the practice of yoga, yoga is a discipline which helps us to restrict yourself at a healthy limit. So as I was telling, it helps us in minimizing the asatma indriyartha samyoga. What is the use of gadget? It is asatma indriyartha samyoga only. We are using it or we are involving in it more than that is actually required. So by the practice of yoga, that disciplines come in us. It will not be acquired by a single day or a single week. It needs a long-term practice. And by that, we can acquire such control over our mind and body that we can say no to the excess use of devices. So that can happen through the dedicated practice of yoga.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the timing of yoga. At what time yoga should be done?
Okay. So actually, yoga requires an involvement of mind. A peaceful mind is requirement is there. So it's always advisable to perform yoga early in the morning, but there is no hard and fast rule like that. Whenever you can have a peaceful practice, whenever your situations are favorable to have a concentrated practice, you can adopt the time, provided this time gap between your food intake and yoga should be maintained. You should not be doing yoga practice on a full stomach. Only when you are having after having a good digestion, then only you can practice yoga. There is no hard and fast time restrictions related to time. Any feasible time as per your convenience can be adopted.
The next question is related to the food for yogic practices. Means if someone is doing the yogic practices, what kind of patya should be followed?
So according to diet, I mean in reference to diet, Acharyas have mentioned that susnikta madurahara chadurthamsha vivarjita bhujyate shiva sampritye mitahara sa uchyate. That is the concept of mitahara in yoga. So it should be madhura pradhana. We know shatrasa has been indicated, but here it should be madhura pradhana because madhura is somewhat pacifying or somewhat relaxing rasa, or it also helps in improving the bala. So we should not go for the tikshna rasas like the katu, tikta and kashaya rasas. Should be madhura pradhana. And the quantity should be minimal. Chadurthamsha vivarjitaha. We should leave one part of the stomach empty and the remaining 3 parts should be filled with food. Pujyate Shiva Samprityehi. That is the most important part. What we are consuming the food for, it's not to satisfy our greed. It's not to satisfy our wish to have the food. Rather, it is to be served as an upasana to the Shiva or the Lord or the God which is residing within us. So we have to just take the quantity and the nature of food, which will be as an upasana to the Lord residing within us. So that means we should be very much careful about the matra. We should not overfill ourselves with the food. And we should also be concerned about the quality of the food. As I said, the rasas should be particularly taken care of. So there should not be any ksharatva or the excessive use of the tikshna rasa should not be there. Basically, the sattvic ahar has to be taken. There is a list of patya and apatyas mentioned in the textbooks. You can refer it from the, it's almost similar to the Nitya Sevaniya Aharas as mentioned in the our textbooks like Charaga Samhita and Ashtanga. Almost similar, but you can always have a reference from the yogic textbooks.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the Panchakarma. During the Panchakarma, can we do asanas?
No, during Panchakarma, asanas are not actually indicated because the body is not in its stable state after a Panchakarma procedure. Because we are giving a strain to the body. During the purification therapy, there will be a physical strain to the body, and so the body strength will be weakened. It will not be in the natural state. So at that time, any sort of exertion is not advisable. So for performing a yogic posture, definitely a small amount of physical strain is required. So it's not advisable after a Panchakarma or the Shodhana therapy. You can take rest appropriate time, and once you feel that the strength is somewhat okay, then you can practice. After the Samsarjana Krama and all is over, you can practice.
Next question is related to the approach of yoga. What should be the approach of yoga for health and yoga for moksha?
Okay. So initially, as I was telling, the yoga had both the two aims, attaining of moksha or the samadhi, as well as reducing the diseases or the kleshas. Both aims are there for the science of yoga. And when you are approaching, or when a person is approaching to you, you should clearly have an idea what is his purpose, why he has come to you. Whether he wants to attain moksha or whether he wants you to help him out from his state of illness. So depending on that, we have to decide the approach. If it is for a disease, we should think on more clinical aspect. Okay, so what are the nidanas, how it has happened in the body and how it has caused to the disease. All those things we have to analyze on the term of Panchakoshas as mentioned in the science of yoga. That is Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya Koshas. In these aspects, we have to analyze the causation of the particular clinical disease in that person, and accordingly we have to adopt the corrective measures. On the other hand, if the person is approaching you for a spiritual upliftment or the attainment of moksha, your approach should be entirely different. You need not give more importance towards the nidanas and all those things. You should lead him towards a positive living through the techniques of yoga. So that way you have to differentiate the requirement of the person approaching you, and accordingly you can select.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the guidelines about the yoga during the menses.
Okay. Generally, during menstrual period, we don't suggest any sort of yoga because again, the body will be not in a normal, completely normal stage. So giving any type of strain to the body is not advisable at that time. But again, depending on the menstrual flow, if clinically advisable, we can suggest certain yogasanas and pranayamas. I'm telling it should be based on individual person. The condition you should analyze in detail, and then only you should take. Usually, it is not advisable during the menstrual cycle. Menstrual stage. But if required, you can consider the amount of menstrual flow, and then, if needed, you can suggest.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the LSCS. Is yoga practice safe after the LSCS? And if it is safe, after how much duration we should start the yogic practices?
It's not advisable anyway immediately after LSCS. We should give due care to the LSCS wound, and once it is completely healed, generally maybe 2 to 3 months time may be needed for attaining a perfect state so that she can involve into yoga practices. It's not advisable at least for 1.5 months after this LSCS.
Thank you. The next question is related to the food intake and yoga. How much duration should be there in between the food intake and yoga practice?
It is advisable to keep a gap of 1.5 to 2 hours minimum. Maximum 3 hours can be there. But again, it's not advisable to do yoga when you are starving. If you are starving, better to take food and let it digest somehow and then go for yoga practice. Ideally, 1.5 to 2 hours gap is sufficient.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to ask you, can you explain prakar yogas related to the this immunity?
Prakar yogas means you're talking about the
this pediatric practice in the Kerala Ayurveda.
Yeah. Pediatric
Yeah.
practices in Kerala Ayurveda, we start right from the 28th day also. Actually, we are having a ceremony at 28th day, wherein the Namakarna is there, the Karna Vedana is there, and along with that, we start giving the baby this Pragara yogas, in which certain herbs are included, like the Vaja is there, Brahmi is there, and there will be suvarna will also be started at that time. There are certain combinations which are administered right from the 28th day itself, and this can be continued at least, for about 1 year we can continue that. It has been told like that, and it is very commonly practiced in all houses in Kerala. So that helps in it takes care of all the aspects, the digestive function also, as well as the immune boosting effect of the drugs is there. All aspects are taken care equally during the administration of the Pragara yogas.
Thank you. Next question is related to the Prakruti. Is there any correlationship between the Prakruti of the person and yoga?
We can't relate directly as such, but again, as we say that Prakriti will define his character. So the practice of yoga, or the the level of dedication towards yoga may sometimes vary depending on the individual Prakriti, but as such there is no hard and fast thing. We can't say that this Vata Prakriti will be like that or Pitta Prakriti will be that. Like in terms of yoga, we cannot say like that. Individual temperament may vary, and that may have an indirect influence on the practice. That's all.
Next question is related to the Dhyanam. Should Dhyanam always be followed by asana, or it can be changed? The sequence.
Actually, this Ashtanga yoga is a cycle. You can pick up from any stage. You can start from any stage which you feel, because if I say that you should start with yoga asanas, many people may not be physically fit for the practice of yoga, but they can do dhyana, or they can do pranayama. So that is what I was telling. When a person is approaching you, you have an in-depth analysis of that person and find out which technique will be most adaptable for the person. If he is very much disturbed at mind, you cannot advise him, or you cannot make him practice either yogasana or pranayama, because he will not be able to focus on that. So in that condition, you can start off with dhyana. So this chain of ashtangas, definitely yama niyama has to be comes at the first, but all other things you can start as per the convenience of the patient or the person sitting in front of you. You can take any order.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is related to the bowel clearance. Is it compulsory to have bowel clearance before doing the yoga?
Okay. Bowel clearance is not always mandatory, but if you experience certain sort of indigestion, or whether your Agni is not properly functioning, or you are not having a proper Vegotsarga, then you should go for a bowel clearance before the practice of yoga. Because unless and until your Agni and your Vegas are satisfied, you will not be able to have a healthy practice of yoga. In that situation, if you are practicing yoga, it can have adverse effects also. I'm telling, if you are having a chronic indigestion or chronic constipation, in such conditions, directly entering into a yoga practice can have more adverse effects also. So in those conditions, it's better always to give a purificatory bowel clearance and then start off with yoga. If it is not a chronic condition, just a 1 or 2 day of constipation or like that, you can start off with the asanas, which will be more beneficial in that aspect.
Next question is related to the Surya Namaskar. Can it cause adverse effect if it is done in excess?
Anything in excess can have an adverse effect. Surya Namaskara, I have seen people practicing in even up to 100 rounds. I have seen people practicing, but again, everything depends on the way you practice. As we were speaking about the Vyayama, how effectively Vyayama can be performed. The same thing is applicable here also. You can practice Surya Namaskara up to your own body strength, unless and until it's not producing any strain to your body, it will be always beneficial. You can do any rounds of practice, but it's always better to maintain a slow pace during the practices of yoga asanas, because basically this yoga is telling about slowing down. Then only you can have these inner experiences regarding your inner self, or regarding the expansion of awareness can happen only when you are moving in a slower pace. For example, I would like to say that suppose you are watching a cricket match. If it's somebody catched out, but you are not you just missed out that click, and when it comes in the replay, slower replay, you can understand the situation better. The same thing is applicable in the practice of yoga also. If you are doing in speed, you will not be able to analyze the changes or identify the changes which are taking place in your body. So that is why it is told to do in a slower pace, so that which each and every body movement you should be aware of. If you are raising up your hand for a particular yoga, so you must be aware that yes, your hand is being raised in this particular direction, and this is the change which has taken place. Such awareness should be there. Yoga is to be practiced with full awareness for the maximum benefit. So this thing has to be kept in mind. You can practice any number of rounds as feasible or as comfortable to your body.
One of the participant wants to know yogic practices for the migraine.
Yogic practices for migraine, it's always better to start with the purificatory therapies, because definitely there is a role of gut in the manifestation of migraine attacks. So start with the feasible purificatory therapy, like you can go for a Vamana Dhauti or a Laghu Shanka Prakshanana. And following that, better to start off with the practice of pranayama, because that will help to balance this. I was telling sympathetic parasympathetic system will be balanced by the practice of pranayama. You can start with the breathing exercise, simple breathing exercise, and progress towards the classical pranayama practices. And gradually you can shift on to the yogasanas and further towards the dhyana practice. This pranayama will help you to reduce the frequency of the attacks in the patient, and then you can successfully shift on to the practice of yoga asanas and dhyana.
Next question is related to the meditation. How can we know if we are doing the proper meditation? What are the symptoms of the samyak dhyana?
Okay, proper meditation, all practices should start under a trained person. You should take the help of a trained person for any stage of yoga, for that matter. Let it be asana, let it be pranayama, let it be dhyana. Everything should be started under a guide. And once you are doing under a guide, you will have a clear identification of the experiences you go through when you are practicing this meditation, or when you are practicing yogasana or pranayama, for that matter. So once you have been trained appropriately, you will not have any such doubts whether you are practicing properly, or whatever the query was there in your mind, it will not be there. So it's better to start off under a trained guide, and then you can have your self practice.
The next question is related to the Surya Namaskara. Does it increase the Ushna Guna in the body? The practice of Surya Namaskara.
Not necessarily. You can't say like that. When you are performing the posture, definitely you may feel Ushnatva at various levels, but we can't say that it increases the Ushna property in the body as such. We can't say that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having the elaborate discussion with us. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Sachin Kumar Tale for giving the vote of thanks.
Department of Production. I'm here to present a vote of thanks. I wholeheartedly thank Chief Guest of inaugural function, Dr. Ashutosh Gupta sir and Dr. Srikant Deshmukh sir. I would like to thank our guest speakers, Dr. Dipti Nair ma'am and Dr. Amol Kosti sir, for enlightening us with their knowledge. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. I'm pretty sure the precious knowledge that Dr. Dipti ma'am and Dr. Amol sir gave us will definitely help us in our studies and clinical practices. Once again, I would like to thank both speakers for taking out time from their busy schedule. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. Datta Patil sir, for guiding us in organizing webinar session and providing us this platform. I also thank you all participant, student, audience for joining us and encouraging us by their wholehearted support. Once again, I thanks one and all present here. Thank you.
I would like to announce something related to the certificates. I have shared one feedback link in the comment. I will again share this. Please fill that feedback form. After that only we can generate the certificates. Certificates will be given within 7 working days on your email ID. Please input your correct name and correct email ID so that there will be no change later on. Thank you all of you for joining us. Feedback link will be active till today 9 p.m. After that, it will be inactive. So please fill the feedback form till 9 p.m. today. Thank you once again for joining us. Now I will be ending the meeting. We will meet soon with another national webinar on different subject. So you will be intimated on your email ID about the details. Thanks a lot.